The Easter Mask. Part 1. The Thing in the Church Basement. The Easter sunrise in Pine Hollow came with pink skies, cold wind, and the annual egg hunt hosted on the hill behind St. Clement's Church. For the kids, it was magic. A field of hidden candy eggs, the smell of wet grass, and the promise of jelly beans and peeps from the old priest in the rabbit costume. For the adults, it was tradition. Nostalgic. Safe. This year, it was my turn to organize it. I didn't want to. I'd only moved back into town 6 months earlier, after my mother passed and left me her crumbling house and the memories I'd tried to outrun. But Pine Hollow was the kind of place that never let go of its own. If you were born here, you were expected to die here. And along the way, maybe wear the suit once or twice. The one kept in the church basement. The one no one talked about. I'd forgotten how quiet the church got at night. It had been closed for hours when I came by, keys jangling, flashlights swinging. The wind pushed against the stained glass windows like something pressing its face to the other side. Even the pews looked cold. The costume, they told me, was in a trunk downstairs. Simple enough. But when I opened the door to the basement, I swear the air changed. Heavier. Like something lived down there, and it hadn't breathed fresh oxygen in decades. The stairs creaked. The flashlight flickered. And at the bottom, the trunk. It was black, banded in rusted iron, and covered in what I first thought was mold. Not mold. Hair. Thin and wiry. Like rabbit fur soaked in water. I hesitated. Something in me whispered, "Don't touch it." But I did. Of course I did. The trunk wasn't locked. It groaned open on hinges that sounded like a scream through a cracked throat. Inside, the suit. Folded neatly. Pale gray. Older than it should be. The fabric was stiff and greasy, like it had been soaked in something that had dried long ago. The feet were large and cloven, the tail matted and stained. And the mask. God. The mask was wrong. It wasn't a cartoon rabbit face. It was old leather, molded into the shape of a hare's skull. Hollow black eyes. Teeth made from broken bone. Ears stitched from real skin, curling at the tips like they had once been worn. Tucked inside the mask was a note, yellowed and soaked in oil. Wear it. But only when they watch. Never wear it in the dark. Never wear it alone. I put the mask back. Closed the trunk. Backed away. The egg hunt could wait. That night, I dreamed of the hill behind the church. Except it was black. The grass burned, the sky spinning with shapes that didn't belong. Children stood in a circle, heads tilted, mouths full of blood. They were all smiling at something crawling out of the ground. It was tall, bent, wearing the mask, wearing the suit. And it walked on legs that bent the wrong way, each step sounding like bones snapping under velvet. Its voice was in my ears before its mouth opened. I remember you, Eli. You were the one who peeked. I woke gasping, heart pounding, hands shaking. There were eggs on the floor of my bedroom. Dozens of them. Painted in dust and mold, and something red. Some cracked. Some still moving. I stayed awake till dawn. When the sun came through the window, the eggs were gone. All but one. It sat at the foot of my bed, slowly leaking something thick and yellow onto the floor. A note was tied to it. Your turn. Don't let them see beneath. I went back to the church the next morning. It felt like something was waiting. The basement door was already open. The trunk was already unlatched. The mask was sitting on top of the suit, upright, watching me. No dust on it. No time. As if it had just been worn. The egg hunt was in 3 hours. And I had a role to play. I told myself I'd only wear it once. Just for the kids. Just long enough to hand out candy, wave, take photos, and go home. Maybe then the dreams would stop. Maybe then the eggs would stay gone. The hill was already packed. Parents milling around with coffee cups. Children running through the grass, plastic baskets in hand. Everything felt normal. Even the wind was warmer now. They cheered when they saw me. I waved. I smiled behind the mask. But the mask didn't smile with me. It moved. The edges curled. The jaw loosened. The bone flexed. I stumbled. The world tilted. The sky flashed yellow, then gray, then red. And for a second, just one, I saw the hill as it truly was. Black soil. Mounds, not hills. Children digging through something alive. Their fingers peeling apart not grass, but skin. And something beneath, watching them through the dirt. Something wearing me. Then I was back. The sun was out. The children laughed. And no one noticed the small trail of blood leaking from beneath the mask. That night, I couldn't take it off. Part 2. The ears hear everything. I tried everything to get it off. Pulled. Scraped. Soaked. Even cut at the leather with a knife from my kitchen drawer. But the mask had become skin. It moved with me. Flexed. Breathed. When I touched the inside, it was warm. It pulsed beneath my fingers like flesh over bone. I should have gone to the hospital. Should have told someone. But how do you explain that a children's Easter bunny mask had fused to your face? That the longer you wore it, the more your thoughts felt like whispers that didn't belong to you. And beneath it all, under the bone, under the stitched ears, there was hunger. Not mine. The mask's. The first real change came on the second night. I heard everything. Not like a person. Like an animal. The walls of my mother's house creaked with voices that hadn't existed before. I heard mice screaming inside the insulation. Heard the trees whispering in a language that sounded like cracking eggshells. I could hear the worms crawling beneath the soil. Most of all, I heard the hill. Constantly. Breathing. Calling. Singing a hymn made of clacking teeth and wet soil. I stayed inside for days. Boarded up the windows. Tried to block the mask's ears with cotton, with wax, with whatever I could find. But it wasn't my ears doing the hearing anymore. It was the suit. I caught my reflection in the mirror, what was left of it, and saw the way the fabric now bulged along my arms. How the fingers had narrowed into claws, hidden beneath the suit's cuffs. How my eyes had turned black beneath the sockets of the mask, like holes drilled too deep into a skull. I was becoming the thing from my dreams. From the old stories whispered by altar boys and gravediggers. The Easter Watcher. The Burrowman. The thing that gathers. The mask brought memories. Not mine. Theirs. The ones who wore it before. I saw a man in 1953, standing in front of a church full of burning baskets. His hands covered in soot. His voice chanting something in Latin while the children behind him dug their hands into the mouths of headless rabbits. I saw a woman in 1910, sewing ears onto a child's scalp while whispering lullabies made of teeth. I saw a child, my age, when I first ran from this town, burying an egg in the woods and watching it hatch into something with too many legs. They had all worn the mask, all become, all gathered. And now it was my turn. I thought about running again. But the truck wouldn't start. The tires were flat. The driveway was covered in fur. And under the hood, where the engine should have been, sat an egg the size of a basketball. It cracked when I screamed. So I walked. Back to the church. Back to the hill. The grass there had changed. It was darker now. Veined. It moved when you looked away, like something crawling just beneath the surface. The eggs the children had missed still sat half buried in the dirt. Some pulsed. Some grinned. One hatched as I approached. Out came a hand. Small. Human. Holding a tooth wrapped in ribbon. The note inside said, "The ears hear everything, Eli. But they also speak." I started digging that night. Not with tools. With my hands. The soil behind the church came up soft and warm, like blood-soaked cotton. I dug until my nails cracked. Until my wrists ached. Until the whispering got louder. And then I found it. A door. Wooden. Carved with symbols I didn't recognize, but understood. Spirals. Eyes. Teeth. An egg being cracked by a cross. No handle. Just a place where a mask would fit. And when I leaned in, the suit guided me. The ears bent forward. The snout touched the door. And it opened. Inside, the chamber of last Easter's. I won't describe all of it. Some things you don't survive remembering. But there were masks, hung like meat. Each still warm. Each humming. And at the center, something rooted. A throne made of baskets. Candy wrappers twisted into scripture. Bones of children used as legs. A scepter of molted rabbit fur. And sitting upon it. Not the king. The hairless. The thing that made the masks. That ate the gatherers once they'd brought enough. It didn't move. But it breathed. And the second it inhaled, the chamber filled with the sound of children weeping backward. Like time playing wrong. Like memories being unsaid. It whispered, "7 Easters remain. You've fed none. Gather." I said nothing. I ran. But the chamber stayed with me. Even now. In my walls. In my teeth. In the mask. It won't let me die. I tried. Twice. The rope rotted in seconds. The pills turned to peeps. The shotgun laid an egg. So I've started gathering. Not people. Believers. The old kind. The ones who remember what Easter used to be before bunnies and brunch. Before the cross was planted in soil that wasn't dead enough. I leave them eggs. I watch. I wait. Because now I know what comes next. And the ears? The ears never sleep. Part 3. The eggs under skin. I didn't know the eggs could be grown. not until I woke up with one pushing its way out of my shoulder. It hadn't broken the skin yet, but I could feel it, warm and pulsing beneath the muscle like a swollen lymph node. When I pressed my hand to it, it kicked. It kicked again that night. And then I knew the suit wasn't a costume anymore. It was womb. I stopped fighting. Fighting is a living thing's reflex. I wasn't living anymore. I was a vessel. A delivery system for the next rite of spring. The mask had changed. It no longer clung. It had become my face. When I removed it, and only at sunrise could it left behind nothing. No eyes. No lips. Just smooth flesh and holes. My reflection didn't scream anymore when it saw me. It bowed. And behind it, in the mirror's rippling silver, I saw more figures. Wearing masks. Dressed in fur. Moving between rooms I didn't own, in houses that had been buried decades ago. The town had started changing too. No one noticed at first. The flowers bloomed early. Tulips in late February. The grass turned thick and waxy. Even the birch trees bore eggs instead of leaves, tiny, speckled shells that trembled in the wind. The children began humming songs they'd never been taught. Old hymns. Things I heard in the chamber of last Easter's. One boy, 12 years old, painted a picture in class of the Burrowman laying eggs beneath the school. When the teacher asked him where he'd seen it, he opened his mouth and a jelly bean fell out. It was filled with teeth. They called me to the church again. I didn't walk there. I was drawn. Dragged by scent and gravity and instinct. The townspeople were waiting. Not angry. Not afraid. They stood in a circle around the burned grass on the hill, holding candles shaped like rabbit ears. The priest, Father Marin, who I thought had died 5 years ago, smiled at me with lips stitched in a cross. "It is the year of the hollowed hatch," he said, "and our gardener has begun to ripen." They brought me forward, laid me on the grass, sang the song of the skin nest, and as they sang, the egg in my shoulder tore free. It rolled down my arm, pink and wet. They caught it, cradled it, and placed it in a basket woven from someone's ribs. I bled honey. That's when I knew I'd passed through the gate of body and into harvest. By the time the fourth egg emerged, from the base of my spine, I could no longer speak. The hole beneath my tongue had grown. Inside it, teeth spun in slow, grinding spirals. I didn't eat anymore. I just opened, and the congregation fed the eggs with offerings. Hair, teeth, milk, secrets. They say a gardener can birth 7 in the season of return. But I gave them 8. The last one came not from flesh, but from memory. From the nightmare of my first egg hunt as a child, when I found an egg filled with worms, and my mother smiled and said, "You're chosen." That memory had been a lie. She never said it. But now, it was real. Because the egg was real. I held it in my hand again. Same worms. Same note inside. Plant this when the first sun screams. That was the final test. The egg of false memory. When you plant it, the world changes. The roots slip backward. History cracks. The town begins to remember what it used to be. I planted it on the hill. Midnight. No moon. The soil opened like a mouth, and the egg sang as it went under. The moment it vanished, the wind changed. It turned wet. And every clock in town struck 13. The streets shifted. Storefronts became stalls selling waxen rabbits with hollow bellies. Homes unfurled into nests. The library sank. In its place, a burrow formed, a tunnel spiraling down to the feasting route. I've seen what waits there. It has my face, but older. More fur. No eyes. Only a smile so wide it split the world once. It greets every egg as it hatches. It names them all. It teaches them to walk in silence and sing when it rains. I'm no longer called Eli. I am the lamb's maw, the gardener of the hollow year. And I speak not in voice, but in eggs. Each one tells a different story. Each one is buried in a crack in your foundation. Each one is listening. Next Easter, there will be no sunrise service. No chocolate. No lilies. Only knocking. Only fur. Only something slipping out of your heating vent and whispering. You were chosen. And when you find that single, hand-painted egg at the foot of your bed, tied with ribbon the color of split tongue, don't open it. It remembers you. Better than you remember yourself. Part 4. The bell buried in the root. No sunrise came on Easter morning. Not even false light. The sky just held still. A velvet gray, thick and humming. The town of Pine Hollow didn't wake so much as shiver into motion. Lights flickered in windows where no one lived anymore. Church bells rang, slow and wet, even though the tower had collapsed years ago. I watched from the porch, wrapped in burlap now. Not because of the cold, but because my skin had started to peel. Where the mask had once ended, something else had grown. Fur. Thick. Black. Soft as rot. Underneath it I twitched. The eggs were hatching faster now. I didn't need to lay them anymore. They grew from me. Sprouting from the walls of my house like tumors. Some popped with a scream. Others unraveled into things with mouths on their backs and ears that dragged behind them like tails. They didn't cry. They didn't crawl. They listened. Constantly. That was the first sign the Burrowman was close. The second was the wind. It stopped blowing. Everything became still. Not just outside. Inside, too. No breath. No sound. Not even the eggs made noise anymore. Then the ground cracked open beneath the kitchen floor. And the bell rose. It wasn't a bell like you'd ring in a church. It was a tooth. Fused with iron. Carved with names long since scratched off gravestones and replaced with symbols that pulsed when you said them aloud. It hung from a chain made of human hair, and it bled when I touched it. The Burrowman had sent it as a gift, as a summon. And in my mind, where my thoughts used to be, his voice bloomed. Ring it, gardener. Call them home. Call the buried. Call the first eaters. Let the sky split. I rang it once. The sound wasn't loud. It was deep. It hit me in the spine, in the stomach, in the teeth. A wet sound. Like soil being torn apart by claws. And in response, the tunnels opened. You ever seen a town unearth itself? The pavement peeled back like old skin. The trees fell inward, revealing hollow centers filled with writhing fur. The houses folded like paper, revealing the nests inside. People who had vanished over the years, long thought dead or missing, crawled from their hiding places, wearing fur stitched into their backs, eyes grown shut with candy-colored membrane. They heard the bell. They followed the sound. They came home. The bell tolls once for each of the hollow Easters. 13 in total. And with every toll, something returns. On the third toll, the first gardener climbed from the church basement. His bones clicked like eggshells. On the sixth, the trees began to bleed yolk from their trunks. On the ninth, I saw my mother standing in the garden, her throat an open nest. She smiled, and her head hatched. By the 11th toll, the sun was screaming. High in the dead sky, a hole opened, not bright, not divine, just wide. A mouth. And from that mouth came the Burrowman. He didn't fall. He unfolded. Legs first. Bent in 6 directions. Ears that trailed clouds behind him. His skin wasn't fur. It was woven of pastels and cartilage, colored in crayon-smudged rage and pious rot. He had no eyes. Just holes where Easter grass grew like lashes. And from the middle of his chest, the mask. My first mask. Still slick. Still hungry. It opened its jaw, and I heard my voice call out. Let the egg break. Let the bloom begin. Let the town remember how it used to taste. I dropped to my knees. The bell rang a 12th time. And every child in Pine Hollow opened their mouths and vomited baskets. Teeth and fur. Candy wrappers wrapped around worms. Ribbons soaked in bile. They cheered. The Burrowman stepped onto the hill. He planted his feet into the soil. And the ground screamed. Because it remembered him. Because it had tried to forget. Now the town is gone. But not burned. Not destroyed. Replanted. It pulses like a womb now. All roads leading into Pine Hollow twist into burrows. All signs point nowhere. If you try to drive in, your wheels will spin in sugar. If you try to walk, you'll forget who you are after 13 steps. If you try to pray, the Burrowman will hear you. And he doesn't like competition. I ring the bell now every night. Each toll, a new bloom. A new memory that was never mine. A new mouth forming under someone's bed. The town no longer needs holidays. It is the holiday. Constantly birthing, constantly hatching. Spring is eternal here. Easter never ends. And the bell is warm in my hands. Because I feed it. Because I'm not gardener anymore. I'm soil. Part 5, the 13th toll. You don't hear the final bell. You feel it. It starts behind the eyes, a crawling warmth like yolk sliding down your optic nerve. Then it coils in your throat, nestles in your spine, and you realize the sound isn't entering you. It's hatching from inside. By the time I felt it, I wasn't Eli anymore. I was just another root in the warren above. Another voice in the 13th choir. Pine Hollow is gone from maps now. If you try to zoom in, your GPS will crash. If you say its name near an old church, the stained glass will fracture. The locals are still here, but they're not what they were. They've shifted. Inside out. Rooted in ritual. They walk barefoot, dragging long ears made of cloth and cartilage. Their teeth are smaller, but sharper. Their eyes are milky, but they see more. They live to serve the season of the split egg. The season we once called Easter. The 13th toll wasn't just a sound. It was a signal. It split the sky. Ribbons of skin and pastel light fell like streamers, and the Burrowman reached through the wound. Not to enter, to deliver. A single egg, larger than a house, lowered into the center of town like a bomb made of prayer and promise. It pulsed with light, and the entire town gathered around it, weeping and laughing, humming that old, impossible lullaby we were all born knowing. I was given the honor of cracking it. They placed a bell hammer in my hand, made from a child's femur, carved with holy spirals. I struck the egg. Once. Twice. The third time, it split. Inside wasn't a child. It was us. All of us. Twisted together, woven from memory and bone. Every version of Pine Hollow, every holiday ever lived here, all folded into a single being. It opened its mouth and sang the first Easter. Not the Christian one. The original. The one older than time. Before baskets. Before crosses. Before God. The sound of it turned blood into honey. It made the sky laugh. It made the worms rise. And the Burrowman knelt. Even he, the devourer, the planter, the mask maker, bowed his great head to the egg-born chorus of memory. We all did. From that moment forward, Pine Hollow didn't just celebrate Easter. We became it. The town is a wound that opens once a year and spills into the surrounding countryside. The grass carries eggs into nearby towns. People find them under porches, inside their shoes, in their children's mouths when they sleep. Some dismiss them. Some eat them. Some listen to them. And those are the ones we come for. You don't see us right away. But you'll notice your tulips blooming too early. Your chocolate tasting faintly like skin. Your reflection showing a mask that doesn't quite match your face. You'll smell fur where there is none. You'll hear scratching in the walls that doesn't stop when you bang back. And then, you'll find your egg. It will be soft, warm, tied with a ribbon that smells like burnt prayer books and root cellar rot. It will have your name on it. And when you crack it open, you'll remember. You'll remember that Easter was never for children. That it wasn't meant to celebrate life, but replacement. That the resurrection wasn't a gift. It was a cycle. Something that has to be fed. And you? You're next. I write this not as warning, but as invitation. Let the Burrowman in. Lay down your baskets. Forget your gods. Wear the mask. Ring the bell. Plant the egg. And on the 13th toll, become spring. If you ever hear bells on Easter morning when no one else does, don't follow them. Unless you're ready to see what you really are beneath the skin.